All right, it's time to get Tyree's takes on the storylines that are coming out of the Giants' Monday Night Football loss to the Patriots. We got David Tyree, Super Bowl champ and Patriots slayer in the building. You know what? Before we start off, DT, I'm blaming you for what happened last night. You wanted to do the helmet catch. You wanted to have one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. They were like, okay, we know that he's going to be on Monday. Let's see what you got to say today, man. Like, I don't know what was going on with that loss last night, DT.
Well, things started off real good. You know, my man Eli was on there on the pregame, and reminiscent of the helmet catch, and I'm feeling all the vibes of possibilities in Gillette, and honestly, it went to crap real quick. It was the wheel of misfortune. It was the absolute wheel of misfortune. You turn this wheel each and every week, and the Giants are finding a new peculiar way to let you down. Whether it's our special teams throughout, and obviously my heart is always going to be tied to the special teams. That's what gave me a job in the NFL. Punt return, kick return for a touchdown. Our kicker kicks into the dirt after a tough year. We feel like we're finally restabilizing the position. It is just manure out there in Foxborough. I'm trying to find something encouragement. B-Line, hit me back.
I have nothing, man. I mean, especially when going into this game, I think it was Patriots minus 7.5. And I'm talking all my trash to all the Patriots fans. I went to UMass, so I'm talking junk to them. I'm like, man, we're gonna forget the points. The Giants can beat them straight up. I didn't answer my text last night, man. I didn't answer not one text last night or today. Everybody leave me alone. I'm at work right now. But let's start about obviously something that is becoming a bigger problem each week. Fans are falling in love with Jaxson Dart, his style, his aura, or the Riz, or what kids call it. But this dude is still not sliding, and he is running reckless out there, DT. Is it, like, at this point, do you bench him to keep him healthy for the offseason?
The fact that you actually, it's not just the reckless bravado that Jaxson Dart plays with. It's the unwillingness to back down and show some attributes of learning. Meaning, this goes back to his John Gruden interview through the quarterback camp, and it doesn't appear that anything that he's saying is actually getting through to him, and that is where we're going to be paying attention through to the end of the season, and hopefully, obviously, we're over here hoping this guy makes it to the end of the season. You talk about these shots accumulate. This is the sport of football. They say that the average hit in the NFL is like being in a car crash. Well, you need to understand that you're not made like a 76, 77 Lincoln Continental. You're kind of at the quarterback position. You're made a little bit more like the Honda Civic. I'm just talking about when it comes to the nature of these hits that you're taking. You're not built like the offensive lineman who's colliding. So this is really where we have to have a temperature check. And where the NFL, we talk about not for long, it's because when we add compounding decisions, RG3, we have these kinds of instances where we saw talented quarterbacks who weren't self-aware enough. If had the football IQ to understand, not just when they get down, to understand that they're no longer in college. They're in the National Football League where men are paying mortgages and they're trying to take you out.
And shout out to the Honda Civics out there, just in case you want to sponsor this segment. He was just using this as a reference. A lot of my Ubers are Hondas, so I get to and from safely. But you've been involved with the player personnel side of things. You've been around NFL head coaches. You've been in the building. I imagine they've had the talk with the kid before. Now what? Because when he's saying things like, this ain't soccer, this is football. There's one thing not sliding for a 3rd and 3. You got to get that first down. But when you're tiptoeing the sideline and you're just not going to get out of bounds, why take that hit? Why put that hit on the body? It's not getting to the kid. So, I mean, what's the conversation that really has to happen with this kid for it really for it to hit and land for him to slide, get out of bounds? Don't put these hits on your body.
Well, there's not too many ways to, when you start talking about the modern day athlete, the game is the field. The inability to play the game is really the greatest deterrent. So, is Jaxson Dart going to have to be pulled into that position? It's possible because at the end of the day, this was a trial experiment primarily for Brian Dable to keep his job. Brian, we weren't supposed to be seeing Jaxson Dart, remember? But now the kid's out there. He's a formidable. I mean, he's highly efficient. Yeah, obviously he is dangerous with the feet. Let's just talk about all the positives. I really love him as he's an efficient passer when he's able to function and kind of move coherently. It's just when he tucks that ball to run, we're in the danger zone and we're biting our teeth. So what the conversation looks like is the same conversation. If we're going to have you to be the quarterback in the face of this franchise, we might actually have to save this kid from himself this year. And that actually might teach him the lesson of what it is to be a grown, mature quarterback in the National Football League, because availability is the best ability. And at this rate of mindset, we're not going to have you available for long.
Yeah, it's like, I'm a parent now. I got a 2.5-year-old. It's almost like looking at my kid playing over there with the rough big kids, and I'm like, hey, come on over here and play on these monkey bars all by yourself, man. Like, they're too rough over there. And go ahead.
Watch Uncle Jameis do it. Watch Uncle Jameis for a few more weeks, and maybe you'll understand professionalism. It's not really an issue of toughness. I think, Jameis went out there, made some tough plays. And I think this is something that Mike is going to have to look at within the next week or two, because this wasn't supposed to be. We weren't supposed to be looking at Jaxson Dart at week 4.
Yep.
And so you got Russell Wilson, you got, Jameis Winston, and we're expecting to have a formidable football team. Things go to crap. Let's finish this thing out well for the entire team and the entire roster. And also, still, you have enough offensive output to be able to score and function. We've showed that in the last 2 weeks, and that wasn't it last night.
All right, let's flip it to another storyline, another first-round draft pick, 3rd overall pick, Abdul Carter, the guy that asked to unretire Lawrence Taylor's number, was benched again for allegedly missing a meeting or being late to a meeting. This kid, he goes on Twitter. He's going back and forth with the reports. Question here, can you just chalk it up as, all right, he's young, first year in the league, he's trying to figure it all out, it's immaturity, or could the lights in New York be a little bright for this kid?
So my answer is yes. And I think this is one of the things that in New York is easily undermined by personnel, meaning you have to have a guy who's just a little bit more mature and stable. And for me, I think it's more vital when you have these top 5 picks. And there's no shade, because we're talking about talent here. And I think some of this has crept into even a Kayvon Thibodeau. When you talk about top 5, we need you to shift our franchise, right? That's just my personal opinion, right? Top 5, I need you to impact my franchise. I might not need you to be the day one starter, change the world guy, Joey Bosa, but I do need you to impact this year. And Abdul Carter hasn't given me enough bang for the buck, and it's clearly because of the maturity level. I think some of those characteristics may have crept in on the Kayvon Thibodeau early on. It's the lights, it's the branding, it's the opportunity, it's the fashion capital, it's everything. But at the end of the day, your job is on the field. And it takes a great amount of maturity to gather all that talent, all that opportunity, and hone in. And I think Abdul is just showing some of the cracks and the flaws. How he responds to this moment is actually going to say more to me than the second.
Yeah, I just take it back to 2007. Aaron Ross, one of the most chill, laid-back first-rounders I ever met in my life. Never missed a meeting. Never heard anything that rookie year. Ross, all of us were always on time. I don't get it. And people ask me, they're always like, oh, well, what's the leadership like in the locker room? They're saying, why are Brian Burns or Dexter Lawrence coming and talking to that kid? Do you feel as though at 2-12, ain't nobody trying to hear all that right now? Do you think that's where they are right now when it comes to listening to their leadership?
Yeah, I would be surprised if that was the case. I think people overestimate, professionalism. I mean, they underestimate professionalism. These are like what could be perceived as a slip up, but this is actually what you're paid to do, right? And what could we say now at this position, at this point in the league? And even if it's said, it won't deter the consequences, right? Mike Kafka's still going to have to deal with this. And I think he has to deal with this firmly in relation to setting expectations. And maybe it needs to increase. And it's not just because of who you are as a talent, it's because of who we need you to be for this franchise, right? We actually need you to be a leader because playmakers assume positions of leadership by virtue of the impact they make. That's the kind of weight that you need to put on Abdul Carter. And I just don't think he's truly yet at that space to fully understand it. These guys want to go out there and have fun. Well, you're not having fun when you lose.
Yeah. All right, last one, and I'm going to put these two together here because these are two other storylines that are coming out of this game. You fired Brian Dable, you fired Shane Bowen, you've benched Russell Wilson, Paulson Adebo, a guy that you spent a lot of money on, hasn't kind of lived up to the money that you've given him. Same thing with Javon Holland. You've got a third overall pick that's missing meetings, not getting the production of a third overall pick. A lot of people are saying that falls on GM Joe Schoen. On top of that, after watching the Patriots bring the belt out last night, a lot of people are saying that this is the new rock bottom for the New York Football Giants. So does this now, that loss, put Joe Schoen in the crosshairs? And is this the new rock bottom for this football team?
Rock bottom is, I mean, I think anyone who has real affections or something invested has felt that way for a long time. Is it a new one? I think that's hard to say. What I would say, I think he's earned a fair share of criticism and accountability. And I've always felt this way through the years. I hold out on harsh critique, but there's a lot of players that have not taken leaps, right? And I just think it does take a little while, but you see great inconsistencies in players that are thrust into position, whether it's a Theo Johnson. What are we doing with the tight end position? How's that Thomas Fadon as a grab? Where's he at now that we're keeping him on the roster? The Josh Adezus, the Deontay Banks, the Jalen Hollins. I mean, we've lost some overwhelming draft capital at high level and mid that hasn't. I'm talking about to the Trey Hawkins, who was supposed to be a talent. So I think he's earned his fair share of criticism at this point to say, hey man, the hair, the good looks and the hair and the great talk isn't really enough anymore. Brian Dable has blown up coaching staff, so I think he deserved the early exit. But I think we should bullseye our GM and have some different demands, maybe questions of accountability. So I think he's earned that. I wouldn't say it was far-fetched before, but I think we can call some of our personnel into question. That shows the cracks when it comes to inconsistency, and that's whether we thrust them in there. We went from Devin Singletary at the running back position for a few $1 million, taking Saquon's number, to Adrian Tacey, to Cam Scatterbo. Is one of them a guy? And I think they're really all talented, but we see great inconsistencies in relation to personnel and how that gets shuffled through from year to year or even moment to moment.
For me, this is rock bottom in terms of the expectations of this team going into this season. It brings me back to when they had Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley as a running back, and Evan Ingram as a tight end. And we see what happened this season. It takes me back to when Russ was courtside at the Knicks game, autographed the football, threw the moon ball into the stands, and everyone thought, okay, Russ is here to save the franchise. And now we're here talking about the rookie quarterback not being able to slide, third overall pick who wanted to unretire Lawrence Taylor's number. All those storylines in the spring and the offseason that made you feel like, okay, Giants got their swag back. Oh, okay. I'm bringing out the starter jacket and the Yankees fitted in the Timbs. I feel like a real New Yorker again. No, we are here right now going into this bye week at 2-12. DT, True. Appreciate you hopping on with us as always. We're gonna get a win. We're gonna do a Tyree's take on a win sooner than later because you got the Commanders, the Raiders, and the Vikings coming up the next 3 games. We're gonna get a W. We're gonna eat some W's with Jameis.
Best 2 and 10 team in the NFL. We gonna get one.
Let's go. We stand by that. Thank you guys for watching Blue Rush.